Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 5th, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. You can see a semblance of a ridge here across Pacific Northwest, some high clouds moving over the top of it. Pretty foggy western portions of Washington, Oregon again this morning. You can see our low pressure system out over the Gulf of Alaska here. This cold air is being cut off and will eventually retrograde a bit to the west, helping to maintain this ridge through the weekend across Pacific Northwest. But we have some change in the model runs off through the extended. One of the models cave to the others, and we will go ahead and take a look at that here in a moment. Taking a closer look here, you can see again socked in through the Puget Sound, Willamette Valley along the coast, low clouds moving around the Strait of Juan de Fuca, Strait of Georgia towards southwest BC, and you can see these low clouds moving into the valleys here of the Cascades down the gorge, and you can see the forest fire smoke on the move as per usual this morning. Pretty sunny off to the east, and if you want to get to the sunshine and you're off in eastern or western Washington, Oregon, get up into the Cascades or the foothills or some of the coastal range and the Olympics, you can get out of the low clouds there. Now, taking a look at Spokane, Washington, one of the only National Weather Service forecast offices that puts out a graphic almost every single day. They do have an air quality alert for Chelan and Wenatchee today. Looking at Seattle, look at this, 64 degrees, below average temperatures. What happened? I thought we were supposed to be in a nice October ridge here. Well, that's one of the downfalls of trying to predict temperatures here as you go through October underneath ridges. As you could see, those low clouds suppress those temperatures pretty well, and we're not going to get that much warmer here today with these low clouds pretty persistent. Again, nowhere near that high temperature of 82 set back in 1980. Look at this red here bounce up here near October 20th. Anybody remember why that happened? 2003, over 5 inches of rain in a 24-hour period for Seattle here. Nice atmospheric river across the region. I was actually working outside in downtown Seattle that day. I remember it well. Now looking at Portland, Oregon here, 2 degrees below average here yesterday, and again socked in, so probably going to be similar temperatures again today, nowhere near that 90 set back in 1980. Now taking a look here, you can see 5,000 feet. This is Russia. Here's Alaska, British Columbia, Washington, Oregon. There's Hawaii, Pacific Ocean here. And you can see where the cold air resides at 5,000 feet. But you can see this get on the move here, move across western Alaska and come down towards Pacific Northwest through the extended forecast into next week. We'll take a look at that in a little more detail coming up here. But potential for a pattern change does exist. This is looking at the cold air at 10,000 feet. There's our upper level low off the Gulf of Alaska here. And as we put this into motion, you'll see it get completely cut off, helped us keep this ridge going through the weekend across the area. But careful, doesn't mean that every place is going to be warm across Pacific Northwest. As you guys know, what happens during ridges in October, you can get fog. Then we see the next lobe of cold air swing down through British Columbia here as we go through Monday into Tuesday and kind of set up shop right over the west coast of North America and potentially cut off here, and maybe that'll bring some wraparound moisture on through next week. We'll have to continue to monitor that forecast here. Then the potential for another polar lobe to come take a swing at us here as we go through the extended, but we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves there. But the important aspect here is that we're going to kick this ridge out, which you probably saw on social media a lot of people saying that this ridge was going to last through mid-October, and that's a really difficult forecast to say and just have come true. As you can see, this is really going to destroy that ridge across the area by about the 10th or the 11th of October here. So that's what we're dealing with there. The GFS, let's go ahead and take a look at what happened yesterday. So as we put this into motion, you can see it plainly bringing that trough down now over the Pacific Northwest. Yesterday just had a ridge over the area and maybe a weak system well north. So it really made huge changes here on the GFS between yesterday morning and yesterday afternoon's run. And it really caved to what the European was saying here. Now taking a look at GFS on the right, European on the left. There's that Gulf of the Alaska troughing here. There's Hawaii. There's Washington, Oregon, British Columbia. Put this into motion. You can see this upper level low kind of retrograde here off the coastline, letting the ridge build over the Pacific Northwest through this weekend. Then you can see the next lobe start to swing down. Both the GFS and the European have it now, but you can see the European is a little bit further west, maybe a little bit better trajectory for bringing some precipitation into the region. And then it kind of cuts it off here over Northern California, Oregon, and the GFS drops it a little bit further to the southeast here. So some important differences to resolve here as we go through the extended forecast. So I wanted to show you guys this really quick. This is what we call a spaghetti plot. And right now we're looking at 18,000 feet pressure map here. So you can see the ridge over the Pacific Northwest, the troughing out over the Gulf of Alaska here. You see all these ensemble runs, pretty good agreement on what exactly is going on with the atmosphere. As we go into the future here, you notice the lines start to spread a little bit, but you can see pretty good confidence there's going to be a ridge over the Pacific Northwest. Start to move on in through Friday into Saturday morning, into Sunday morning now. And you can see the next trough on the move across Alaska into southeast Alaska. And you see the pretty good disagreement coming here with some of the ridging versus some of the colder air aloft getting into the region here. And so you can kind of communicate the uncertainty in a forecast to the general public here when you look at a plot in this aspect. As you can see that trough kind of dig down across the region, you see some of the models are kind of showing more ridging and some of them more troughing. So you have to be able to understand that that's not just a slam dunk in any forecast. But then as we go through midweek, actually confidence increases here in a little bit as that system swings by, whether it be a little further north or south. We're going to have a transient ridge build and then potential for some more troughing here as we go through mid-October. But now looking here at October 14th, can you make definitive statements on a forecast like this? This is completely chaotic. You can see cold air overlapping with warmer air. These ensembles are all over the place. That's why I call it a spaghetti plot. Noodles are just all over your plate here. You can't really make a clear picture out of this. So you got to be careful when you listen to forecasts that talk about, hey, we're going to have a ridge of high pressure over the Pacific Northwest through mid-October, and we're going to have warm temperatures, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not trying to slam any forecasters here because it's important that we look off into the extended and try to get some idea of what's coming. But at the same time, you can see how a forecast quickly breaks down as you go through the extended. So you got to be careful about making definitive statements as you go a little bit too far out in the forecast. This again is a spaghetti plot. This is temperature at 5,000 feet. You see the warm temperatures aloft across the Pacific Northwest right now, and that should increase at least a bit as we go through the weekend here. But then you quickly see things get chaotic. If some colder air starts to move through the region here on Monday, and even some yellows overlapping with blue by this point as you get into Tuesday. So you see some pretty good disagreement come along here as you get in towards next week. And then by the time you get out to mid-October, I mean, look at this. You've got some warm temperatures aloft showing up through BC and some very cold temperatures aloft and some troughing. You're all over the place by this point. So it's important to communicate this uncertainty when you're dealing with the forecast here. Just wanted to show you guys that. This is Klamath Falls. Check this out with the ridging, warm temperatures, chilly overnight lows. But then look at the temperature crash as this system dives down out of the northwest. This is the deterministic. This is not an ensemble average or anything like that. So this is kind of all on its own here. This could be off. Let's just put it that way. But you can see if the solution did verify what kind of temperatures you would get with some pretty chilly overnight lows as this cold air blasts down across the region. Now looking at Seattle, Tacoma, you can see the warm up with the ridge this weekend here. Then you see the potential cool down in the wake of that system coming up. And we'll take a look at precipitation chance with that as well. I know that's what a lot of people want to know about, so we'll look at that here shortly. You can see Vancouver, the warm up for the weekend, the potential drop in temperatures as we go through later next week as well. Portland, same thing, the potential warm up. We've got to watch out for fog though, and any kind of low clouds around the area can suppress these temperatures pretty well. They're going to get to 76 there today in Portland. I don't know if that's going to happen, but you can see the cool down potentially the week following. Looking at Seattle, Tacoma, with these trajectories, the system coming down with the trajectory out of the northwest here, you can see there's some dry runs in here, and there's some with not much precipitation, although there are some with a few tenths of an inch, but not a great precipitation signal with that cold front dropping down out of the northwest. And then you can see the chaotic nature of some precipitation possibly showing up in the extended. This is going to change, though. If that cutoff low stays a little bit closer to the Pacific Northwest, then we'll be dealing potentially with some wraparound moisture and maybe get a little bit more moisture out of all this troughing coming up here. But right now, not a strong signal for a big precipitation maker across the area. This is the European kind of showing 5,000, actually 18,000 feet on the top, 5,000 feet on the bottom. You can see that drop in temperatures and the potential bounce back through next week, then maybe another trough swinging by through mid-October. And you can see that at 5,000 feet also. So you can see pretty good odds this cold air does come swinging by the region, although not a big signal for precipitation yet. The GFS here, I want to show you guys this. So this is the yesterday afternoon's or yesterday morning's GFS run. Look at this. didn't even show that cold air coming rolling through here. So you can see how badly the GFS caved to the European here as you go on in through next week. And then the most recent one at 06Z is showing that also. Backed off just a hair on the cold air, but it still has it around. And the 12Z, although it's running, the deterministic run has not run yet for the ensembles. Now you can see Tillamook here kind of showing that same thing here with that precipitation signal. Not a great one coming out of the system out of the northwest, but then the potential for some precipitation in the future as well through mid-October. So not as dire as it looked, but some of the model runs were showing pretty dry through the mid portion of October. But again, this is the time of year where things can change quickly, and you can see that happening in real time today. Kamloops interior, eastern British Columbia here showing the control run actually showing up towards a centimeter, which is about 4/10 of an inch of rain here, but the mean is much less here too. So again, not a very wet system coming down out of the northwest. This is Kamloops at 18,000 feet here and 5,000 feet here. Temperatures also kind of showing the same thing with that trough swinging through. Now, a little fun here. This is the European seasonal forecast. It's been running since October 1st. I think today is the first day it came out. Here we're looking at Washington, Oregon, California. There's Hawaii, Pacific Ocean is here. This is equator. You can see the equator moving all the way across here. We want to know, as far as La Nina is concerned, 5 north and 5 south. That's where it matters what the Pacific Ocean is doing as far as La Nina is concerned. Now, this goes month by month. You can see La Nina is in charge, classic La Nina signature across the equatorial Pacific. Wanes just a hair as we go into November, a little bit more as we go into December. So you can see the slow, arduous death of La Nina potentially as we go through the spring coming up here. And even look by March, maybe even a little bit of above average sea surface temperatures there across the Pacific Ocean here. And then even more on April. So maybe we'll be headed towards an El Nino here in the next year or two, which is probably pretty likely actually. Now, taking a look here, this is the same model run, the European seasonal, showing the dry October potentially here. November, a little bit of above average signal here for Pacific Northwest. December, just a hair above average. January kind of highlights the Cascades of Washington, maybe southern BC down through Oregon, Northern California coast. February, March, April, you get this picture there. And again, this is just kind of for entertainment purposes only. This is just kind of hot off the presses. I just wanted to share this with you guys. October 2022, you see the little bit of ridging here across Pacific Northwest and the Gulf of Alaska trough that's been pretty prevalent here. Now by November, it's showing this troughing a little bit closer to the Pacific Northwest here. December, look at this high. This is where we want it. If you're a snow lover anyway, you want to get that cool northwest flow and maybe buckle out over the ocean here and bring some troughing and maybe some lowland snow across the region. So December starts to show this high pressure out here across the Aleutians. Look at this. January, even more. Troughing across Pacific Northwest, but this is kind of a signal here for potential lowland cool weather here. Let's just put it that way. Maybe we'll get a lowland snow event across Pacific Northwest in January, who knows. But as you go towards February, March, April, you can see all the way out towards April 2023. Again, just entertainment purposes right now. This is 500 millibar heights here as we go through October. You can see the troughing out there and the general ridging across Pacific Northwest. November, maybe a little troughing signal there. December, not much of a signal here. But as we go towards January, there it is, a polar lobe kind of getting towards BC and towards Washington here. Maybe some high pressure steering some northwest flow out of here. But again, just entertainment purposes only at this point. So anyway, you guys saw the big model change that GFS went through. It kind of puts a big wrinkle in that warm and dry all the way through mid-October as some of the models were showing, and you probably saw a lot of social media posts about that. So we do have that change coming. It's just kind of what happens during October. You get wrenches thrown in your forecast all the time. We're in the transition period of the season here coming up. And we're probably going to get additional changes are going to happen to this forecast as we go up here towards the mid portion of October. Eventually one of these systems are probably going to break down and bringing some meaningful precipitation towards Pacific Northwest by the end of October. Almost certainly, it'd be pretty rare that would not happen. Although we have had some pretty dry Octobers in our past. But anyway, you saw that system's going to dive down out of the Northwest. Let's just kind of cross our fingers and wish that it brings some meaningful precipitation across the region, helps put out some of these forest fires here. But we'll continue to watch these forecasts tomorrow. We'll do this again. We'll try to check out that precipitation signal and see if it has changed, or see if any of the models have changed and any kind of that troughing potential going through early next week. So I hope you guys are having a good day. You want to get out of that low cloud activity, get up towards the foothills or the Cascades, or towards the Olympics and the coastal range there, and try to stay clear of that forest fire smoke. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.